The training section is only one part of what we do. The other part is that we recruit volunteer therapists to go into the community and represent us and see our clients. And we mostly represent the COGS of the 16 COGS of North Central Texas, but certainly are open to expanding that as well if you find the need in your community. If you're interested in becoming a volunteer therapist for Trauma Support Services, you can go onto our website at tssnt.org and fill out that application, and we'll get back to you with that. Or you can come find me with the staff members here. We can give you some more information as well. All right, and today, if you have any questions as we're going along for Dr. Gray or Dr. Sproles, speak up. Make sure you speak really loud so that the camera in the back can hear you. Just a quick little reminder. The article that Janice, in the very first session this weekend, she mentioned an article and she printed them out and they're on the table in the back. So if any of you are interested in that, I think we're going to try and get it up on our website as well, but if you want a hard copy to take home today, they'll be on the back, on the table right in the back. Yeah, I think that's it. All right. So our first speaker this morning is Dr. Robert Gray. He has been practicing as a clinical social worker for more than 30 years and has authored a book and many articles on the field, on the area of thought field therapy, which he's going to be talking about today. And he also founded the Thought Field Therapy Center of San Diego in 1986. So I am very excited to hand this over to him. To get started, you guys are in for a real treat today.
Following through on what you learned yesterday, let's all get ourselves centered, find ourselves accessing our internal resources, beginning to come into where we are in this moment, and to be present and do the best we can with what we've got. I'm going to try to do this without a mic. Would somebody in the back row raise your hand if you can hear me? That's a good news. Okay. If I get quiet, or if you can't hear me, please just raise your hand and let me know. Sunday morning, and you're here. What are you doing here? Before we start anything else, I always think it's useful and helpful for me personally to take just a second every time I'm going to invest my energy, my time, my effort, to commit myself to something, to do it for a purpose, to do it in the name of. And it's up to you in the name of whatever you choose. I often do this training, and I remember some people in my life who were important to me, who taught me a lot, to whom I feel I owe a debt. And so I always like to take a second and think to myself, I'm doing this one today in honor of. And the reason that I do that is because it brings me back to, I'm not just up here playing for myself. There's a purpose for it. And I hope that I do a good job for the person, the thing, the principle, the organization that I'm dedicating this time to. So I ask you, who are you doing this for? What are you doing this for? And just take a second and use this chance to honor that, and use this time to honor that. Brings energy, brings good energy to what we're doing here. There's a lot of information that I'm going to try to put out there today. I will put out there today. And I'm very hopeful that you will find it be useful. What are you doing here today? How did you get here? I ask this question because I want you to think about it. Because how you answer that question says something about you and about the work that you do and how you'll use what you learn here today. It also will inform some of your own process of how you operate. But think about it. What are you doing here, and what are you doing this work for? You know, I ask myself, you know, why does a 65-year-old white rich guy keep putting himself in situations where he is continually vicariously traumatized? By becoming witness to another. And it doesn't mean that violence is always man-made violence, but people are experiencing the worst things that they've experienced in their lives. So you got to ask yourself, what are you doing here? You know, you all understand that vicarious traumatization is a real thing, and it has impact on us. And traumatic stress, just like stress, is cumulative. Yeah, maybe you're fine today. What about next year? What about next decade? Are you taking care of yourself as you expose yourself to these things? And why are you doing this? I know why I do it. Do you know why you do it? What is it I do? Well, thank you for being here, first of all, because I'm a world-class therapist. My specialty is traumatic stress recovery. And I tell my clients what we do here sets a standard for any therapy you will get anywhere else. Is that bold? Yes. But I believe it, and I know it to be true in my own experience. So how do I explain to people? So when people say, well, what do you do? My short explanation, like if I'm on the plane and somebody says, Bob, what do you do? And I'll say, well, first of all, let's just never hope in your lifetime that we ever meet professionally. Because if we meet professionally, it means something really, really bad has happened in your life. And it means that as you were moving down that road of your life, following your path, you were cruising along with the people you love in the direction you wanted to go, something bad happened that threw you off the road. And that happens to all of us in our lifetimes. We know 70%, the conservative statistics say 70% of Americans are going to experience traumatic stress in a lifetime. I think it's more like 80 or 90. So we all know we're going to get thrown off the road. The problem becomes when we can't get back on the road. And that's where I come in. Because when you've been thrown off the road and you find yourself in the ditch and you can't move along, that's me. That's my job to get you unstuck. So you can just think of me as Tow Truck Bob. I'm the guy that comes along and hooks you up and gets you back on the road. So now that's a very simplistic way to think about it, but that's who I am. And that's how I describe what I do, because I don't think it's my job to run people's lives. It's my job to keep them on track with their lives. So why do I do this? Well, it can be pretty ugly. I know why I do it. Why do you do it? You better know. You better know, because this has an impact on you. And there better be something in it for you. For you as a human being, for you as a person. Because that's what it takes to keep going. So I want you to, as you start to ask yourself, why do I do this? How come I do this? How did I get into this? I got into this when I was 20 years old, and I was at a college, and I volunteered at a drop-in center, a hotline. I thought it was kind of cool. It was a chance to help people who were drug overdosing, having bad trips, getting caught up in the political situation, getting scared. So we were a suicide hotline. And I began to do it. And I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I know, it's kind of weird. But the opportunity to talk with people at that depth, at that emotional connection, in a moment when they needed something, it was good. So I was good at it. That's nice. So, but what is it that makes you keep doing something? How are decisions made in one's life? And one of the things we're going to get back to as we go along here is, are decisions made in the top half of the brain or the bottom half of the brain that connects to the body and the heart? Now, you can say we make some decisions in the top half and some in the bottom half, but the question is, what part of you runs you? What part of you do you make decisions from? Do you operate from? You need to know this, because if you know this about yourself, you know this about other people. And that can be very helpful when you want to help. So, why are you doing this? I know I'm doing it. Why are you doing it? And I can share more with you why I do it later on. Here we go. These are the objectives. Because this is for continuing education, we are required to state our objectives to begin with. What I want you to go away from here is a tool that will help you in your practice, that will help you in your life, and that will inform how people operate. Once you see how this tool works, you begin to think about how we operate as human beings in a different way. So it's a tool to teach your clients when they're triggered and you are not there to help them. It's a self-care tool to help you with the times you are overwhelmed by your emotions or by the emotions of your clients, because you've empathetically connected with them in a way that it's like you're experiencing it. And for some ways to talk about thought field therapy so everybody doesn't look at you like you're absolutely crazy. See, I started this over 20 years ago. And trust me, when I came back from the first training and I went to my colleagues and I say, I got to tell you about this thing. And I'm talking to them and I'm sharing with them. And I'm looking at them and they're all kind of going, it's gone over the deep end again. And so part of what I did, I realized immediately I was going to have to start training people in what thought field therapy was so that they would have an opportunity to experience it and not just think, oh, this is Bob's craziness, because it's far from it. This has nothing to do with my own beliefs, with my own values, with my own hopes. Everything we do in thought field therapy is evidence-based, and evidence is defined as something that's replicable, something that's demonstratable, something that you, in your own way of knowing, can know. So we'll talk more about how that works. So those are the objectives. Oh, wrong button. Thought field therapy. Whoa, too fast. Immediately relief for overwhelming emotional upset, stimulating meridian treatment points in a specific sequence, provide healing data at the most fundamental level, and causes no harm. The things that I'm showing you today, you do not need to worry about that you're going to hurt yourself or anybody else. Either it works or it does nothing at all. And in thought field therapy, we're saying if it does nothing at all, stop doing it. Do something else. And we have lots of other things to do. So, how many of you know anything? How many of you have experienced thought field therapy? Oh, okay. Well, you're going to get a chance to try it today for yourself. See, that was the thing. When I learn something new, I need to know that it works before I'll do it with my client. The nature of being a traumatic stress recovery specialist and working in this field is we are hypersensitive to protection of our clients. Our first rule is don't make it worse. It's bad enough what's happened, don't make it worse. So before I'm going to do anything, and most trauma therapists, this is absolutely true, they have to be convinced it's going to help. So the only way I know if something really works is for me to experience it, or me to directly observe it. So that's what we're going to do some of today. I'm going to give you some history of TFT, but you don't really need to know any of it. Because all you need to do is to tap. Now, if you're interested in research and that kind of thing, thought field therapies for treatment of post-traumatic stress symptoms. This is the National Registry of Evidence-Based Programs and Practices. This is a subset of SAMHSA, which is a subset of HSAs, HHS, Health and Human Services Administration, the department. Anyway, so it was vetted, and you see the little green arrows over there mean that it is found to be evidence-based. Now, so when people say to you, what are you doing? Just say, it's okay. It's been vetted. It's been vetted by the government. It's okay. And people say, well, you can't do that because it's not evidence-based. It is evidence-based. And you ask them what else is on that registry that's evidence-based for traumatic stress. You ask them if, ask the next speaker, is EMDR on there? I don't know. I haven't looked. If you ask the speaker who came before us, you ask her, is that, what was her style? What was it called? Somatic, well, somatic, it's a somatic form, but hers is more specific. I like it. I've seen it before. Hakumi? Hakumi? Yeah. Ask her if it's on there. Now, I'm not saying don't do it because it's not, because I don't think this is worth anything. I really don't. Except a couple of years of my life trying to get it on there. I didn't do the research that's quoted on here, but I did the shepherding it through the process. So that's there. And it's been a lot of journals. So if somebody says it's not been vetted, this is a form of energy psychology. Energy psychology has over 100 peer-reviewed articles. There was just 4 meta-analyses that all showed it to have tremendous power. Thought field therapy was the original energy psychology, and it draws from it and some of that. I just laid this out. This is the studies that I had to submit to SAMHSA. Now, does it work? Yes, it works. You don't have to know a whole lot. Dr. Callahan's book has been translated into 15 languages. 15 languages around the world, and it is used around the world. So what does that tell you? Thought field therapy is neither language nor culture specific. You don't have to worry about that. If you're a human being, actually, if you're a vertebrate, it's going to help you. Now, if you want to know more, if you go to TFT, Traumatic Stress Relief, they list the 15 different languages, and they have it translated in a bunch of those languages. So here's some of the languages it's been translated into. We use it for crisis intervention, acute stress disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, complex and complicated disorder of extreme stress, self-care for critical incident stress management teams. I'm a trainer for the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation. So I'm one of their core trainers, and I teach this for them. I also teach the peer intervention and the group interventions. So I've got a fair amount of experience in this world. Does no harm. Okay, so I think we need to pause for a moment, because I'm talking about it, and until you see it or experience it, you're not really clear what it is. So you just follow the protocol to do it. So what I'm going to ask for here is a volunteer. Don't get skittish. First thing you need about thought field therapy is that disclosure is not required. I was so impressed with the young woman who sat down here yesterday. What is her name? Amberly. Amberly? Amberly?
The client?
Yes, Amberly. Yes, takes a lot of courage. I remember going to trainings early in my career, and people would say, well, come down and let me show you how it works. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to go down and sit in front of a room full of my colleagues and let you see my deepest, darkest stuff. And I'm going to let you watch me turn into this confused mess. I don't think so. So part of the nice thing about thought field therapy is disclosure is not necessary. All we're going to ask you to do is to tune to the thought, which means to think about it, to remember it, to image it, whatever. And all I'm going to ask you to do is to tell us in the most general terms what's going on so we know the right tapping pattern. I'm only going to teach you one tapping pattern, but there are many. And beyond the 14 different tapping patterns that are standard in thought field therapy basic training in algorithms, there's the next level, which is actually totally precise because the body tells you in the moment what it needs. And that's at the diagnostic or intermediate level. And I'll show you what that looks like a little bit later. But right now, I'm going to ask somebody to let me work with them for 5 minutes. Oh, I got a hand right here. I'm going. You want to come down? You can come down. You can stay there or come down. It doesn't matter, but it'll be easier for people to see what we're doing. No, you don't get to sit down. We're stand right here. This isn't going to require sitting. We're not going to be at this long enough. We can come back and do more later if you want. But Jenna?
Yes.
Okay, Jenna. So what I think it's often good to do is what I'm teaching you is how to deal with things from the past that still overwhelm you when you tune to them or when you recall them, all right? So would you be willing to let yourself think of something from the past that when you think of it, you still feel some of the upset with it? Okay, you got it? All right, now what I'm going to ask you to do is before we start, we need to be able to be precise in what's happening. So I'm going to ask you to rate the upset that you feel in your body right now on a 0, meaning none at all, there's no upset at all, to a 10, which is like the worst you can imagine of it. All right? So as you're standing here right now, recalling that event from the past, and you feel the upset in your body, how would you rate it?
About an 8.
About an 8. And can I ask where you feel it in your body? Is like tightness,
Kind of
compression?
From here to here. Yeah,
And like a compression of tension. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, while you're thinking about this, is just tap the side of your hand like this. And you can all do it with her, you know. And if you're thinking of something, notice what your rating is. All right. So we tap the side of the hand. Now we tap under the nose, right on the upper lip. All right. Now we're going to go to the beginning of the eyebrow. So it's just between the center line of the face, either side, okay? It's a very forgiving system. We're tapping on meridian treatment points. Now come under the eye, right on the orbital bone, on the bone right underneath the eye. And I always say tap under the eye. If you say tap the eye, they will. That's a mistake. All right, now what I'd like you to do is tap under your arm. Now, what I usually say is with women, where your bra comes across your ribs, right in the middle of your ribs. And on men, we say on a line level with your nipples. I'm sometimes not allowed to say nipples, so I have to be careful. Well, you'd be surprised what triggers people. So we're tapping there. And you can tap this way or this way. It doesn't matter. We just need to stimulate the point. Now come down to the notch in your throat here, right? Now go down about an inch or so, and over about an inch or so. And there's a hollow spot where your collarbone and your first rib and your sternum come together, right in there. Good. Now, you're going to tap on your index finger between the last knuckle and the bed of the nail slightly towards the thumb. Last knuckle, bed of the nail slightly towards the thumb. That's the end of the, what is that? That's the small intestine meridian, but that doesn't matter. I'm just throwing you off. And then tap under the collarbone. And then tap on the tiny finger, again, between the last knuckle and the bed of the nail. A little more on top, please. There you go. Now tap under the collarbone. Now, that's the first part. So there's the first part, a middle part, and the first part again. So it's like layered, right? We call it the 9-gamut sandwich. This is the 9-gamut. This is what comes in the middle. You're going to tap between the two small knuckles about a ½ an inch towards your wrist. That's it, Jenna. Okay, you're going to keep tapping while you do 9 things. First thing is close your eyes for a moment. Open your eyes. That's 2. Look down to your left, just with your eyes. Now look down to your right. That's 4 things. Now, you're going to whirl your eyes. Now just hold your head relatively level and just whirl your eyes in a big, follow my hand, big direction, big circle all the way around. All the way around. And then go back the other way. Keep tapping while you're doing it. Come on, you can do this. 2 things at once. Keep tapping and whirl your eyes around. Good job. All right, now, that's the hardest part. Now here's the weirdest part. Hum a couple of bars of any tune. Anything. And then you count out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're doing this because we're shifting the location of the thought in the brain. And then hum again. From one hemisphere to the other. That's a good enough explanation of what's going on. Now stop. Now, that's the 9-gamut series. So now we got to finish. It's a 9-gamut sandwich, right? We did tapping. We did the 9-gamut here in the meat. And now we got to put another slice of bread on top. And we repeat the tapping we just did. Tap under your nose. Beginning of the eyebrow. Under eye. Underarm. Under collarbone. Index finger. Under collarbone. Little finger. Under collarbone. And stop. Now, I would ask you to recall the event that you were pulling up before, right? Got it? And then notice what's going on in your body. And now rate the upset now, 0 to 10. And the important thing is you stay honest with it. Don't worry about whether it's going up or coming down or staying the same. But this helps us know what to do next. So how would you rate it now?
I'd say it's slightly lower, maybe like a 7.
Slightly lower.
7.5.
7.5. Okay. Would you say that you can feel the difference? Where do you feel it?
Yeah.
How does it feel in your chest?
I don't feel as tight.
Okay, it's the same area, but less tight.
Yeah.
So the tightness is now at a level of 7.5.
I would say that's at a 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we really have
Yeah.
is the experience in the body. Okay. So there was a slight change. Okay. So in thought field therapy, if something works, we're going to do it again. But before I do it again with Jenna, I just want to ask, did anybody notice anything while you were tapping out there? I was watching you all tapping. What'd you notice, ma'am? Yes, what'd you notice? And did you have a number when you started and a number when you end? What was the number when you started? 6, 7. And what is the number now? 1. Went away completely. Okay. Anybody else notice a change? Yes, ma'am.
I didn't even really have a memory or anything I was working from.
Yeah?
I just noticed as I started tapping that I felt calmer.
More relaxed. Okay. Anybody else want to share what happened? Okay. We'll get back to you. Yeah, go ahead.
I almost volunteered to work with you because I started on something yesterday.
Uh-huh.
I'm still continuing on. My buddies are up here. I have a borderline client that I have had for a lot of years
Oh, yeah.
because just nothing was working. And she wouldn't even let me do
Oh,
stuff.
so when you say a lot of years, how many years have you been?
7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've all got those clients, yes.
Yeah. So I was feeling really good about doing that.
Yeah.
Until I listened to Linda yesterday, and then I started feeling guilty.
Oh, bad mama, bad mama.
Because, I mean, she is still really a mess. And
Yeah.
I just was never able to find the magic bullet, no matter what I tried.
That's hard.
So I just went to that feeling
Yeah.
of guilt. I know that's not necessarily the algorithm,
Yeah.
but I know a little bit about TNT.
Okay,
But even just going through that exercise really did help with that.
yeah.
It made that more distant.
Right, not so in your face. Yeah, so you can kind of deal with it in a different way. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that is hard to recognize at some point that this does not serve your client and it doesn't serve you, so why keep it? I mean, if it doesn't serve your client, well, if I'm getting off on it, if somehow it's useful to me or powerful, oh, well, maybe I'll keep doing it just because I'm a selfish son of a bitch. But if it's not doing them any good and it's really nothing in it for me at all, I mean, why are we doing it? And it's like, I need to be putting my energy someplace else. You need to be putting your energy someplace else. And I'd say 7 years is a good enough try.
Interestingly, I was struggling because you said think of one incident.
Yeah, I'm like that.
And so it is a little more, ironically, I opened some things yesterday with buddies here too, and terminating with a borderline mother after 40-some odd years of trying and trying and trying, and so there's guilt over that. So it's very similar.
Yeah, but that's a fair try. That's a fair try.
I think
So
so.
I do. And so so if I may, what you're feeling is there's a whole range of things that go on with this because you're doing some family work. You're doing some family of origin
There's
stuff.
a long history of
Right,
very deep
right,
hurts. There's
right.
guilt. There's
Right.
fear. There's grief.
Right. So I believe that something changed when she tapped. Do you know why I believe it or why I accept that? Is because first she told me. The second thing is that I could see a shift in her color. I could see a shift, a slight shift in the way she's looking. So that should be congruent with the numbers that people are giving you. But right now,
I had a hard time continuing to think about an incident through the tapping. I felt
Uh-huh.
like that was a time where I was kind of distracted, but then all of a sudden I was like, I'm feeling a little better. And I felt tingling in my hands, like the things were flowing a little better.
so you're a therapist?
Yes.
An LCSW, an MFT?
LPC, I can't talk now.
LPC. and-
LPC intern.
That's okay. This is a little off script, folks, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm just going to say, if you were your client, what would you tell them they need to work on right now? What's the piece that they need to get to?
That's a tough one. Probably just acceptance for now
Okay.
to start with.
So, say, I accept that my mother's relationship and ours will never be.
It's going to make me cry.
Okay. Okay, come back. Here, just tap with me. Come on, tap with me. Tap with me.
I don't want to accept that.
I know. Here, tap here like this. That's all. Don't be. You get to feel whatever you feel, beginning of the eyebrow. And if this is what you feel, then you go with it. Under the eye. Under the arm. Damn, I should have let you sit down. Anger. Under the collarbone. Okay. Let's do the rest of it. Tap the side of the hand. May I touch you?
Yeah.
You want to be right there. Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Look over here. Look over here. Follow my hand around. Back the other way. Hum. Count.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hum again. You're doing fine. You're doing fine. Now tap the side of your hand. Now, if you want, you can tap along, and if you don't have anything you can tap about, just think about adding some power to whatever she's doing. A little energy there for it. That's nice, but you don't have to. Tap here. She's got more than enough power on her own to do this. Under your eye, under your arm, under your collarbone. Index finger, under the collarbone. Under the collarbone. Jenna, what are you noticing now?
A little more calm.
A little more calm. Okay. Now, when I ask you to say, what did I ask you to say?
That's a trick.
No, I'm trying to remember. It was, what did I say? Right, but before that, the statement I asked her to, then the statement I asked her to make was, see, it's important to be precise. I accept that my relationship with my mother will never be.
B, period. Is what you
Whoa, well, that's where you stop me. What do you want your relationship to?
That's what you said.
Right. So, do you want to have a relationship with your mother? You want to have a relationship with your mother?
Yes, in a perfect world, yes.
Would you point me in the direction of the perfect world? I mean, right, exactly.
There's a incongruence. Do I want it? Yes. Is it possible? No.
I accept that what I want is not possible at this time. Can you say that?
I accept that what I want is not possible at this time.
And what do you feel when you say that?
Sad.
And where do you feel the sadness?
Everywhere.
Okay. And how would you rate that sadness right now?
10.
All right. So tap with me again. And tap here. Beginning of the eyebrow. Under the eye. Under the arm. Under the collarbone. Index finger. Under the collarbone. Little finger. Under the collarbone. Back of the hand. Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Look down left. Look down right. Whirl your eyes in one direction. Whirl your eyes in the other. Hum. Count.
1, 2, 3.
Hum again. You want to be tapping here. Okay, then side of hand. Under nose. Getting close enough to the points and getting on the right points is important, beginning of the eyebrow, but it's a very forgiving system. Under the eye. Getting it in the right order is important. Under the arm. Under the collarbone. Index finger. Under the collarbone. Little finger. Under the collarbone. Yeah, breathing. It's always good. All right. So, Jenna, what's going on for you now?
It's weird. Like, the more I do it, the more calming it feels.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say I'm probably down to like a 7 again.
All right. Well, let's test it. What was the statement she just made? I accept that the relationship
Except that the relationship
that I want
with
my mother
is not possible at this time.
And how's it feel now as you say it?
Better.
So you can say it out loud now. Yeah. No, it's important. This is tough stuff. It's important because this means that you're doing this like a grown-up. Yeah. So now, We could spend 3 hours right here, right now with this woman, and I think it would be productive and useful. But I'm going to tap with you once more now, and then we're going to have to move on. But we will come back and do some more tapping. But right now, I want you to focus. Say that statement again.
I accept that the relationship I want with my mom is not possible at this time.
And notice where you feel that the most in your body. Got it? Now rate that worst spot.
7.
Okay, let's tap again. Then under the nose. Under the eye. Under the arm. Under the collarbone. Index finger. Under the collarbone. Little finger. Under the collarbone. Index finger. Under the collarbone. Back of the hand. Between the two small, there you go. You got it. Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Look down left. Look down right. Whirl your eyes in one direction. Whirl your eyes in the other direction. Hum. Count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hum again. Okay. Then repeat. Side of hand. Under nose. Beginning of the eyebrow. Under eye. Under arm. Under collarbone. Index finger. Under collarbone. Tiny finger. Under collarbone. All right, Jenna. So, try the statement once more and notice what happens in your body when you say it this time.
I accept that the relationship I want with my mother is not possible at this time.
Sounds different, doesn't it? How's it feel?
Easier.
Easier. And we're not there yet, because that has a lot of meaning to it and there's a lot of pieces to it. But I think you will get very quickly to where you go from that place. Because things become possible when you accept the impossible. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to, I know you're still hurting, and it kills me to ask you to sit down. But we'll come back to this some more. And if you want, you can keep tapping by yourself. As things start, if things start to overwhelm you, you can't hear what I'm saying, you can't pay attention, go ahead and just go through the tapping sequence again. And it's laid out there for you, all right? Does anybody have any questions about what we're doing for me or for Jenna? Yes, ma'am.
Question for you. So I was trained by a different TFT practitioner about 3 years ago. I've been using this in my practice.
Okay, anything for Jenna? She's been very brave and very powerful. We'll come back to you.
If I remembered it was being videotaped, I probably wouldn't have volunteered.
Oh. I should have reminded you, huh? Well, thank you for doing it anyway. I'm sorry, go ahead. What was your question?
So when it was a different practitioner, and I do like this has some modalities that didn't have in the role
Right.
guys. But do you use that some, or is that just a little bit? I know sometimes there are brother and sister models of a similar.
No, they're not brothers and sisters. They're a prodigy, okay? All of this stuff starts with Dr. Callahan, Roger Callahan. He was the guy who originated this, who discovered it. He's the one who, he would say, he didn't discover this stuff, the underlying principles. He'd say he developed and created, he would say he discovered what was already there, and then he created protocols to make it more effective. That was over, he did his first stuff in we took the first training that led to this in 79, started doing tapping in 80, wrote his first book in 85. In about 90, people started, who had been trained by Dr. Callahan, said, oh, we got a better way. And so they went off and decided to do something different. Now, they broke, if they said we had a better way and Roger saw it and said, yes, that's good, he would just incorporate it in the TFT, not a problem. But the problem was that they were saying we got a better way, and he didn't think it was. And so they broke off and they started doing other things. You were probably trained in something that's called emotional freedom technique. And the problem with that is that, for example, Roger stopped using affirmations in about 96, 97, about the time I learned it. So if somebody's telling you to do affirmations, they're about 20 years behind Roger. Okay? If they're telling you to tap on both points at the same time, they're about 20 years behind. Now, I won't say that these things don't work, because I've seen them work. But the problem becomes, what do you do when they don't work? And as professionals, you better know what to do when they don't work. And you better understand what these pieces work and have a way to put together and make sense of it for yourself and for your clients. So that's probably what you were exposed to. Did you have any success what you were exposed to?
Yeah, no, I had great success in the office with, I have personal success. I've been using, I lost 40 pounds, kind of
Tap.
Practice out there called tapping for weight loss.
Yeah.
Kind of in the general public, she's not a clinician.
Right, right.
And I used some of that, and with some other
Yeah,
practices
yeah,
that was very, it was a good component because my anxiety and the tapping will
Right.
release anxiety.
Absolutely. And so you'll find that it will be helpful. If it's helpful, you use it. But when it's not, you go someplace else. 2 more questions and I'm moving on. Yes? How am I determining which sides of the body to tap on? And what I'll tell you is I'm not. Because what we're doing is tapping on meridian treatment points. The meridian treatments, the meridians in the body from Chinese medicine run on both sides of the body, front and back. And so it doesn't matter which one you tap on as long as you get the right meridian. So I can tap here. It's the same as tapping here. And I can tap with this hand, or I can tap with this hand. It's the same. So the key here is to get the meridians in the right order, but you can cross the body. It doesn't matter. Yes, next question.
In line of that, in your handout here, it has little finger first and index finger second and second.
Caught again. The reality is, you're right. That's the way it's written. And it doesn't matter. But I should follow the protocol because it causes confusion. But it doesn't matter whether you do one first and the other is first. And you notice that that is the protocol that we're using, is the protocol that was given to you, right? So it's the last couple of pages in your handout, I think. Where is it? Yeah, that is the protocol. Yes, ma'am.
In your notes, you say, if this does not work, you might need to do something different. Are you going to help us with that?
I'm going to show you another technique that I think will be very helpful. That's our first go-to here, which is collarbone breathing. But I'm not going to show you anything else besides that. The reason that it's very important that you understand this is, well, at least with the population I work with, the last thing you need to hear is for your therapist to look at you and say, well, I don't get this. This has worked with everybody I've ever did it with. You know, clearly you are the most screwed up person who's ever existed. This is hopeless. No, you're not going to say that, right? So that's why I'm very clear with, if the tapping is not working, you've tried it a couple of times, don't make them crazy or make them think it's their fault. This is the point at which I say, I'm sorry, I don't have the skills to help you at this moment. I'm sorry, I don't have the skills to help you. If you show up asking for help, you've done your part. My job is to help you. And if I don't have the skills to do that, I'm sorry. Own it. Take it on. Don't heap more onto them. There's nothing wrong with them. They had the good sense to show up. And you want to encourage that, and you want to say, okay, what do we do? Well, you pull something else out. Or you just say, let me go make a phone call, see if I can figure out something. Let me call somebody else. Let me send you to somebody else. Let's do something else. There's always hope. And don't let your lack of skill stop them from having hope and moving forward. So just own it. Sorry. I don't know. It's like when people come to me and they ask me to help them in a language I can't speak. What am I going to do? Well, you can't be cured in that language. Does that work? No. That doesn't work. I got to go to my PowerPoint. I'm a little fluxed here. I don't know where I'm at. Yeah, disclosure is not required till you trick them into telling them their life story. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. You rate the upset, you tap, you rate the upset. Now, why are we rating the upset? We do that because one of the things that Dr. Callahan has found, and that every great therapist I've ever read or known has understood, is that the more precise, the better. The more the specific, the better. And precise, so he was very clear in the beginning that he wanted to be able to know what somebody else's experience was. You having pain around this? Yes. How bad is that pain? Well, it's pretty bad. Doesn't mean anything, right? We do the tapping. Are you better? Yeah, I'm better. What does that mean? He didn't know. And because we don't know, we can begin to imagine or pretend that we do. So he just started from the beginning. He always asked people to be precise in their communication. 0 to 10. 0 is no upset, 10 is the most upsetting. Now, if you're working with children or you're working with somebody who's in a state that's more childlike, they're not going to be able to give you a 1 to 10 because they're not in a state where that's available. You know, a 5-year-old, 6-year-old can't give you a 1 to 10 because they don't have that top of the brain development enough to understand what that is and how it works. So what you do with a kid oftentimes is you say, how big is the upset? You know, how much you love your mommy? You love your mommy this much or this much or this much? Oh, you love her this much. Okay. Now think about when that little plane that you were in with your daddy flipped over on the runway, and remember you were hanging there upside down by your seatbelt. Remember that? And when you remember that, as you're thinking about that, that doesn't feel good inside, does it? No. It's a bad feeling. Yeah. How big is the bad feeling? Is it this big or this big or this big? They'll tell you. Right? And you tap with them. And then you say, okay, let's go back. Tell me more about when the plane flipped over and you and your daddy, you know, had to be rescued by the fire department. Now, how bad does it feel now? Well, it still doesn't feel good. It feels bad. How bad does it feel? Does it feel, before it was this bad. How big is that bad feeling now? Oh, it's like this? Okay. So you get them to rate in a more precise way what their internal experience is so you know whether you're doing something that's working or not. Right? You need to know that because if it's not working, you got to try something else. So with kids, you can do that. The other thing is we have a smiley face chart. I don't know if you got, I don't think you got it in this one, but we have a little smiley face chart that we use with kids. It's just one of these things, and you can look at the face. I'm going to pass this around. This is a pocket guide that reviews the basic training materials. But you can use something like that to get a kid to be precise and to tell you what's going on. There it is. We call that the subjective units of distress, the SUD. These are the tapping points. That's the protocol. We just did that. These are tapping points. It's all written down for you. 9 gamut series. What is this? And then you repeat the tapping points. What am I trying to get to? Now, when you ask people to return to the event that they started with, you can ask them how the pictures changed. If they're visual and they think in pictures, you can say, how's the picture changing for you? I'm not visual. I don't know how you people who have pictures in your head get anything done. I mean, it's kind of like, it's amazing to me. It's like, well, how could you think? How can you focus? How can you do anything if you've got all these pictures going on? Well, that's the way most people are. I happen to close my eyes, I see black. Okay? I'm not visual at all. So I tend to experience things in terms of I'm more kinesthetic. I feel things. If you ask me to pull up a memory, I will more than likely focus on the feeling of that event to access the memory than I will a visualization of that event. So, but you just have to know who you are. But the idea is that we want you to notice what's happening as you return to the event in your body, in your experience. And that's what we're doing. We didn't do the floor ceiling eye roll, did we? Is it on that protocol? The last thing where it says, I got to show you how to do it. We should have done it. Sorry. It's not essential, but it can be very helpful. Now, if you're wondering, well, how am I going to remember all this? How am I going to do this? Simple way to do this is go to my website. If you go to my website, www.rlbray.com, you will notice that there is this a pointer? I don't think so. You'll notice that when you're there, you can just go to up there where it says, I can't do it. It says Help Now. If you go there, maybe I'll try to pull it up later. If you go there and you click on that, you'll see a series of links. And the bottom link is a video link of me doing just what I did right here. And you can just follow me through it step by step the way we just did it here. That's very easy. Just go there. You can give it to your clients. Just go there and then do it. Now, the other thing that you can do if you're so inclined is, and I only have this in Apple right now. We will have it in Android next year, by the end of this year, because I find it very useful. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to where it says the Apple Store, and see the little button there? That'll take you to the Apple Store. Oh, this is the bottom half of my website. So the other, this is, if you go to this link, it'll take you right to that SAMHSA website that I showed you before. Okay, so if you want that, just click here. It takes you right to that website. Now, when you click on the Apple Store, it'll take you to something like that, and then you're going to download. Keith McGinnis is the guy that did it. You'll see it comes up like this. Once you download it, it's download for free, right? Doesn't cost you anything. And then, doesn't cost you anything, push the red cross button. When you push the red cross button, what you will see is a little man comes up here with a green dot. That green dot is where you tap. So you just follow the tapping through, step by step, all right? And when you get to the end, it'll ask you to rate again what's your level of upset. You slide along the bar, then you continue. It tells you what to do next with that. Now, it's free. If you want the rest of the app that has all 14 different tapping patterns and other things in it, you have to pay for that. But the idea was I wanted to get this out to as many people as we can, so this is a way to do that. If you want to help me out, if you want to help get the Android version up faster, buy a month or buy a year. And that will give me some money to get the Android piece going. I'm going to pass this around so people can see what it does. So Yeah, so then when you've done all 9 things, then you just hit continue. And then it takes you back, just tap there. So pass that around, take a look at it, play with it a bit. But that's the easy way to do it.
Do you ever use that with clients?
Huh?
Do you ever use that in a session with
Oh, yeah.
clients so that they can?
Hey, you come to me, you tap, you know. You come, well, no, I say, do you have an iPhone? And if they say I have an iPhone, I say, take it out now.
Okay.
Download this app, because this is your go-to place when you start to get upset, and I'm not around, right? So just follow the app. If you do that, you will get a result, all right? Now, there are other ways to know to tap. I'm going to pass around some of my business. Maybe Kaylee or somebody, can you help me pass these around? So this is my business card. And on my business card, nobody leaves my office without paper, you know. So on the inside of my business card is the same tapping pattern we just used with Jenna. Okay, so put that in your pocket. I got one client, I said, tape that to your mirror in your bathroom, because every time you go to the bathroom, I want you to tap, because you need to be tapping a lot. So there's lots of ways. Or you can just make a copy of this handout. Just make the front and back, right? And give that to your clients. I do that. Yes, ma'am.
Tapping to be used like as part of a self-care regimen that you do daily, or only at the time of upset?
Can tapping be used as part of a self-care regimen? Yes. And, you know, we can talk more about what that might look like, but we really don't have time right now to go into that. But yes, I have a client right now that he's got a lot of problems, and I just said the problem is you're not getting better fast. He's bitching about it. I'm saying you're not tapping enough. So I got him to commit to every time he goes to the bathroom, he will tap. Now I'm giving him a more specific pattern that's useful to him, but you could do the same thing with this, which is if you tap, or if you just wake up in the morning and you tap, it's not going to hurt you. You know, if you tap before you go to bed, maybe it'll calm things down and you won't have the nightmares. If you wake up with a nightmare, tap. You wake up with a nightmare, you can't go back to sleep, tap. It'll calm things down, it'll help you sleep. Yes, ma'am.
So, when you went to the bathroom, do you have to think of the event or just tapping? Or you wake up, you have to think of the event or just tap?
Well, for him, it's kind of like, think about your life, right? I mean, there's enough misery right there. But it could be more specific than that. So that's a useful way to do it. All right. Yes, sir.
Implications for specific populations, like teenagers, foster care, those type of things. It seems like that would be very beneficial if we can engage them in that.
It's very beneficial. And again, it's because you don't got to wait for the doctor. You feel the upset, you get to know it. And I find that teenagers, once you get a teenager to do it and to experience it, you're there. It's getting them to do it the first time because they're so embarrassed by it. Let me talk to you just a minute about along those lines is Paul Oss is a psychologist in San Diego who took training with Dr. Callahan about 20 years ago, the same time I did. And Paul is just, he was a psychologist, but he was also a Lutheran minister. And Paul decided that he needed to take TFT around the world. So he was actually on a trip to Africa doing some work, and he started teaching people how to do TFT. He ended up in Rwanda and helped establish, he came back and he got some money together and he helped establish an orphanage in Rwanda for the street children that were there. And also for some of the children who were survivors of the genocide, the Rwandan genocide. And one of the things that happened is over the years, he went back a number of times. The Foundation for Thought Field Therapy has supported a number of trips to Rwanda. Suzanne Connolly has done some amazing work there. But the stories that came out of that are just so touching. The story that I love is the one where they went back to do a follow-up in the orphanage 2 years later to see how people were doing, because they had rated these kids in a couple of different forms. And the kids were still there because they had no place to go. But what they found is that what happened is they had taught the children how to tap. So they would come in, and the study that originally was they would spend 5 minutes to an hour with a kid. And they would tap with the kid, and the kid would feel a difference, right? Now, I'm not talking about a little difference. So there was this one kid. They tell the story. I wasn't there, but they tell the story of this boy said, I can't see. His vision was shot. He had hit a history of not being able to see. He couldn't read because he couldn't see. He couldn't see things at a distance. It just couldn't see. And so Carolyn Sakai, one of the therapists, she's a therapist in Hawaii, was there on this trip. And she said, well, okay, I'll see if the sister said, can you help him? And she said, I don't know if I can help him. Let's see what we can do, though. So they brought the boy, and he was so this must have been about 8 years, 7, 8 years, maybe later, after the genocide. So anyway, so she just starts doing thought field therapy at a more advanced level than you're seeing here. But she was with him for maybe a half an hour or something, and doing tapping with him, and suddenly he jumps up and he runs to the window, and he said, there's leaves on the trees. And she said, well, yeah. And he said, I can see them. He'd never really been able to clearly see the individual leaves on the tree, right? And then, so she did a little more with him, and suddenly his vision was just clearing up like crazy. He was doing great. And so Caroline went back to the sister and said, you know, I think we've done something significant here. And he can see now, and he stopped complaining about the itchy eyes. He kept saying his eyes were itchy and scratchy, like there was sand in his eyes. And it seems to be gone. And she said, oh, he doesn't know. But his story is that when he was a baby, a 1-year-old, that his family was slaughtered. And he was found alive at the bottom of a pile of dead bodies. His family had covered them, covered him with their bodies when they died. And he had been there for a while and in the sand, face down. But he survived. So what happened? Well, we don't know for sure what happened. But maybe that child was cured of the traumatic stress of that event. And the damage, the vision came back. Now, I got to tell you, that's powerful stuff. And so anyway, they taught the kids there to do tapping, and then so they went back, and it turns out that what happened was that became a part of the culture of that orphanage. So they were being told that, if a child woke up in the middle of the night from a nightmare, all the other kids would gather around, and they would tap together. And they would tap until it was calm again, and they could go back to sleep. But these are kids helping kids. That's powerful stuff. The stories that we're hearing now, we're being told that thought field therapy is transforming communities. The mayor of one town said, you know what? Since thought field therapy has come here and people have been taught how to do it, they use a train-the-trainer model. So they come in and they train community leaders to do tapping to train other people in the community. And so that's spread through the community in a lot of different ways. So they're not just training therapists, which there aren't a lot of in Rwanda, but they're training the communities. And the mayor says, I'm walking down the street, I'm hearing people laugh again. I'm walking down the street and I'm seeing people interact again. It's transforming our community. And stories about neighbors who are able to tolerate their neighbors again from tapping. Very powerful stuff. Anyway, there's a movie called From Trauma to Peace about the work in Rwanda. And if we have time, I'll show you a short clip of it. Why am I talking about this? Oh, you asked me. That's the beauty of it, is that you can teach anybody to do this. And I encourage my clients to learn it for themselves and to share it with their families, their friends, anybody. Because you can't cause harm with it. Yes, ma'am.
Is there ever a time when it opens up deeper emotions that would require a therapist, like personality?
Is there a time when it opens deeper things? Now, this is, okay, so you're going to have a presentation on EMDR this afternoon. I got to tell you, I got no troubles with EMDR, except you have to be a therapist to do it, okay? Now, they're going to teach you some things that you can do. But I took EMDR in the early 90s. Francine Shapiro first developed it. I heard about this, I read about this, I saw this, and I said, I'm going. And I went and I took the training. And I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, because it's precise. It focuses on what you're working on. It gives you a protocol to follow. It gives you that 0 to 1 scale. They use those kinds of scales in that. It was great. Now, there's a couple problems with the EMDR, and they'll discuss that with you. But one of them is you don't really know where it's going to go, right? And you don't really know how the session's going to end. But that's why you need to be a skilled therapist. Now, here's the thing with TFT. If somebody gets upset and they feel the upset, tap. It will bring it back down, okay? And what will happen is they'll get to a point where they've resolved whatever perturbations or thought fields are in that particular thing you're working on or been triggered to, and then they'll be fine. It doesn't mean they're done, but you're going to tap it down. So like with her, excuse me, Jenna, you know, I didn't know where we were going to go, and she got triggered into some deep work. Now, she knew the depth of the work when she was coming down because she was a therapist, but I didn't know, but that's where it went. So we tapped to a point where she's manageable. You know, all of us get upset. All of us have upset. But I'll tell you, as long as I'm at 3 or 4, I'm okay. You give me above about a 5, I start to be a little less clear about what I'm doing. By the time you get me at a 7 or an 8, I'm not thinking. I'm just reacting. I'm responding. Almost always, you can tap that down to a level where they're going to be at a place where it's okay to say, okay, we can pick it up next week. Or, you know what, you need to work on this some more. You should go home and tap some more. Does that answer your question? Okay. Let's do some more. All right, who would like to volunteer for the brief history? We'll come back to the brief history in a bit. Can I have another volunteer? She was quick. She was quick. What's your name?
Lainey.
Lainey. Hi, Lainey. Do you have something we can tap on?
Anxiety.
Oh. Not trauma, huh?
Well, you know,
Nah. Are you anxious right now?
mild.
Mild anxious. When are you the most anxious?
When I'm stepping back out there to get back into the counseling profession, like interviews.
Putting yourself out.
Yeah.
Now, notice what just happened at the anxiety level. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we tuned the thought, and so now she's anxious. All right? What level of anxious are you now?
Probably about a 6.
All right. Now, we could just tap with that, or I can mess with it a bit because I'm a therapist. Okay. So let me just ask you this. This feeling of anxious that you have about being interviewed, judged, evaluated, I don't know, what's the word? Tested?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, no, tell me your word.
I guess found out.
Ah, okay. All right, so now think about the possibility of being found out. Now, just notice what happened as soon as she changed that. Did you see the shift? Did you feel the shift? Okay, sweetie. So now, now let me ask you this. This feeling of fear that you're going to be found out, that's a familiar feeling, right?
Yes.
Okay. How familiar, let's say, well, can you remember the first time you felt that feeling, or how old you feel when you feel that feeling? I'm going to be found out.
Maybe 15, 16.
Okay, can you think of the event?
The general time, yeah. It's like a series of events, probably.
All right, think of that series of events. Notice what you feel. And how's the discomfort now, 0 to 10? I'm sorry, I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this too much, right? I'm having too much fun with her pain, but she's smiling at me and I keep smiling back. So you think about that happened at 15, and you think about those things that were going on. Think about the worst event. Got it? Now, we're going to tap. So tap the side of your hand. Tap under your nose. Now, we could have just tapped when she said we've got this, but because I'm a therapist, you know, I got to mess with understanding this or putting it in some better sense. And then under the arm, under the collarbone. Index finger, under the collarbone. Little finger, under the collarbone. Tap the back of your hand. Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Over here. Over here. Keep tapping. Keep tapping. Now, big circle. Back the other way. Hum. Count. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hum again. Tap the side of your hand. I don't know. Beginning of the eyebrow. Under eye. Under arm. Under collarbone. Index finger. Under collarbone. Little finger. Under collarbone. Okay, now stop. Could you bring me a glass of water, please? Thank you. Pull it up again. Shit at 15. Going to be found out. And how do you feel now?
A 3 or a 4.
About a 3 or a 4. Okay. Well, in TFT, if something's working, we'll give it another shot. Right? Okay, so tap here. Now, we'll talk about why it is that it didn't go all the way to a 1 when we get a little more into the theory. Beginning of the eyebrow. Under eye. Under arm. Under collarbone. Index finger. Under the collarbone. Little finger. Under the collarbone. Tap the gamut spot. Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Look down left. Look down right. Whirl your eyes in one direction. Whirl your eyes in the other. Hum. Keep tapping. Count. Keep tapping. Then hum again. Didn't need that, but I threw it in there anyway. Side of hand. I got distracted by the water. Under the nose. Beginning of the eyebrow. Under the eye. Excuse me, under the arm. See, this is the trouble when I try to do things at one time. Under the collarbone. Index finger. Collarbone. Tiny finger. Under the collarbone. All right, go back to thinking about 15. What do you notice now?
Feels out of 1 or 2.
Very good. All right, now, the question is, you going back to work? You getting off your lazy ass and going to work? Is that it?
Something like that.
Yeah, well, however you talk about it. But you're about to step out back into the professional world, and you got to be interviewed, you got to be found out at some level. Now, as you think about that, doing interviews right now, how do you feel?
About a 3,
And where were we when we started?
5, 6.
Yeah, that's good. Now, what we just did there is, instead of treating the event in this moment, I could pretty much know, because I've done enough of this work, and you could have guessed it too, that because she went right to being found out, you've done some work, right? I mean, so that's about an event that happened earlier that was, because at 15 we can't, I mean, that's so scary. It's like, we don't know what to do with these feelings, and we don't know how to manage other people. I had a 15-year-old in my office just the other Friday, and I got to tell you, it's just heartbreaking. I'm sitting there with her 18-year-old sister and her mother, and it's like she's starting to talk about being bullied. And this is a loving family, and they don't know what's going on with this girl, you know, but she's getting bullied. And it's like, it was wonderful to be able to do some tapping with her and to keep her talking. Because I could keep her talking, her sister and her mother started to get it. You know, they moved from problem solving with some direction into support, into care. Because this is a very smart 15-year-old. Trust me, when she's working at the top of her game, she doesn't need anybody to tell her what to do. She's very bright. I think we're going to, you can tap some more on this. Okay. There's more there to be done. But again, if we add another 3 hours, I'd sit down with you and we'd clean this up. You're very close to having it cleaned up.
Awesome.
Do you know that? That's my sense of you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So the best way to learn something is to do it. The best way to do it is to help somebody else. This is the best way to learn. So right now what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to break into partners, and then I'm going to ask you to take your partner through the protocol. All right? Yes, ma'am. In the back. Yes. Let me show you what that looks like. So if I'm standing in front of somebody, I'm going to say, tap the gamut spot. May I use you? So she's going to tap the gamut spot. And I'm going to say, drop your eyes to the floor. Over 6 or 7 seconds, you're going to rotate your eyes on a vertical line all the way to the ceiling. That's it. That's the floor to ceiling eye roll. So if you get down to 1 or 2, that's often the piece that you're going to use to finish. I probably should have done that with, what's your name? Lainey. With Lainey. That might have helped her. She was very close. That might have been the final piece. Okay, so I want you to find a partner. I want you to let your partner take you through a protocol, and then I want you to take your partner through a protocol. I'm going to give you about, all right, I'm going to give you 7 minutes to do that, and then I'm going to give you a 5-minute break, and then we're going to start again at 10:35. 10:35? Yes, 10:35. Now, if you need to take your 5-minute before you do that, that's fine. But come back here at 10:35. I know you're having too much fun. What I'm going to ask is, I like to, every time we do this, I want to stop and just start with, do you have questions? As you were doing this, did anything percolate up in terms of questions or issues, concerns? What was it like for you? Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, like, it's hard to stay focused on, you know, the thing, the moment, the event, and just like I'm concentrating on making sure I get it right. So and I wonder if it's just this environment. So in a session discretion as a therapist? Are you know, would I be telling the client, make sure you're staying with that moment? Or-
You know, you don't have to remind somebody to stay with it, because once you get triggered, you're locked in. If you could just turn it off or distract yourself, you know what, they wouldn't be sitting in your office. So once they're in that thought field, is what we call it, then they're locked in. You don't have to keep reminding them. They will stay there until it's finished or until they've gone on to something else.
So it's more about this environment than it's not.
Well, and this environment, and somebody asked, you know, so is this the whole therapy? Well, maybe if all you need is to calm down that central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, to calm it down, and then that's all you need, that's what you're coming for, then you're done. But if you're coming because you have a whole lot of other things that you want to do, therapy is just not about calming the autonomic nervous system. It's about retraining the autonomic nervous system. It's about good problem solving. It's good counsel. It's growing. It's a place to grow up. So therapy can be a lot of different things. But this makes it all much more possible, because when you are in an activated state, you don't think, or your thinking's not very good. What else? What do people notice? Yes, ma'am.
I love that it didn't require perfection. I had to get those steps, but it didn't require perfection for me as a person.
Yes.
I just had to go off,
Right.
you know, and I felt in myself that calming.
Yes. When you were doing it for someone else? Yeah. Therapy gets easier when you don't have to have the great question, yes. Yes, Pat.
You know, I can share what I have before
Yeah.
the workshop, but I do this with real traumatized victims who come in to see police detectives, and they're having to retell a whole story, which traumatizes them, just the fact that they walked in the PD. So they'll come in there, they're a babbling fool, they can't talk, they can't function. So the detectives will say, well, go talk to Pat for a minute, and I'll bring them in, and I'll tell them, I think it's the goofy bit. A lot of people don't like humming or anything like that, and they think I'm out there. But we go in my office and we do this, and they calm down, and they can talk, and then they go into your interviews. And so I know it works just for that moment. I mean, that's all the therapy I needed at that time. And then I share a lot of papers so they go home and try it.
Right.
But that's something that anybody can use. And what I want to say about some people I saw a while ago, are so attentive. It is not, like she said, it's really easy. You don't have to do all that crazy. It's so simple, and you just talk them through it. So I just want to share that.
Well, and I think Pat makes her stories about what she does with the police to calm people down so the detectives can do it. The fact that the detectives are sending them to her, how much more proof do you need, right? I mean, and I think it's important to recognize that. And it's important to recognize that you can do thought-field therapy anywhere along the continuum of services. You know, good crisis intervention technique says you don't continue to work with somebody in being exposed to whatever the event was, right? So if you're at the scene of a car accident, try to move them away from the body, right? Or if you're at a suicide or a murder, you try to get them out of the room, right? But I got to tell you, tapping, thought field therapy works even with the body in the room. If you can't move them out of the room because the officer taking the report, whoever's in charge says, no, I want them to stay there. You know what? They got to stay there. But that doesn't mean you can't tap with them, and that's not going to affect their capacity to be a good witness. If anything, you're a better witness if you're not overactivated and just reacting from that emotional place. I once had a DA sent me a client, and I called the DA and I said, well, you know, they're pretty hysterical right now when they start to talk about it. You know that when I tap with them, when I send them back, they won't be. And he said, I'm sending you to them because they need help. And he said something I thought was very interesting, which was, if my case is dependent on a hysterical witness, I got no case anyway. So you work with them. And so the thing is then she could go back and she could sit there and she could look the jury in the eye and in an honest, appropriate emotion, tell the jury exactly what that guy did to her. Much more powerful than being hysterical. for some reason, I'm a little confused about the best way to go about this. But let me talk to you about what I'm talking to my clients about, that maybe you'll find this useful. So let's understand how the brain works. I'm not an artist, so don't be concerned if this doesn't look like a real brain.
We can't see
right?
it.
Can't really see
Can't see it.
Oh no! Okay, so we got the top of the brain, right? The prefrontal cortex. We've got all of these little wavy things throughout here, all these siblets. Is a very primitive thing. But it's the thing by which we know our existence. Existence is known here because this is what connects the body, right? So, polyvagal theory. Who's heard of polyvagal theory? By Porges? Good stuff. Good stuff. Because he says that all of the stuff that we need to stay alive happens down here with no learning. It happens down here with no learning. At least that's the way we're born. And then we build on that and based on that. Now, the point of this thing...
Spell his name, just so we know. Spell his name.
Porges? No, I can't spell it. I'll look it up for you later.
Okay.
Look up polyvagal theory.
P-O-R-G-E-S.
Thank you. Brilliant, man. If you get a chance to see him present, it's worth the time. Anyway, the problem is that memory is encoded here. The thymus, the hypothalamus, and the amygdala, particularly the amygdala. But these are all lower parts of the brain that connect directly into the brainstem. Right? Now, the problem with these parts of the brain is what regulates affect. It's what makes us know to feel anxious or to calm. Right? It's where we determine how our body is responding to the events around us. And that's where memory's held. Now the problem with that is that in that part of the brain, if we divide the brain roughly in half, and we have the top half of the brain, right? Of the brain, top of brain, right? Now the thing about that is that includes all of these functions that allow us to abstract. Right? This is where we're able to create abstract, to formulate thought. This is where language exists. This is where the parts of us that happen that we can think and we can talk. Talking happens here, not here, right? And because I can abstract and because I can share words, I think that we're understanding one another. And if I watch the behaviors enough to say, okay, yeah, we're close enough. Whether or not you actually hear things the way I say them, or I hear them the way you say them, doesn't really matter. I don't know if the way I hear things is the way you hear things, but this is close enough because of the abstract abilities. Now, this is where language exists. Language does not exist down here. And so the problem is with the bottom of the brain is where we have things happening like controlling our respiration, controlling our sensation, controlling how we respond. And this is where feelings lie. Now the problem with that is the bottom of the brain has no language. There is no words down here. Now I wouldn't say that there's no language, but there are no words. So the bottom of the brain needs a way to communicate. Yeah, the bottom of the brain. Now, the interesting thing is that if you just take that out, that's Bob. So, if you think about Bob, Bob has no words. If you want to communicate with Bob, you got to find a way to do it without words. Now, that's the beauty of thought field therapy, is it allows you to communicate through experience. Now, there's a lot of ways to communicate with experience. Thought field therapy is the most precise way I've seen to do it. Now, if you're interested in more of understanding this kind of thinking, the bottom of the brain and how therapy works, I will encourage you to read Bruce Ecker's Unlocking the Emotional Brain. It's well worth the read because it gives you a formulation, a way to understand what happens when we make transformative change Not counteractive change, but transformative change. And that process can be done in a number of different ways. With TFT, I think this is a good one. So communicating with Bob. When you don't have words, you have to do it with experience. Experience is when you look at somebody and smile. That's an experience. Right? When you hear the tone of my voice and you feel that, that's an experience. The words don't matter. And we know from communications theory that words play a very small part in communications. It's the gestures. Your experience of my being with you. That's a way that you communicate with that bottom half of the brain. You also can communicate with the bottom of that, with the bottom half of the brain, using kinesiology. Now, the reason that it's important to do this is because you're never going to talk yourself out of what you feel. Anybody ever been successful at talking somebody out of what they feel? Right. It just doesn't work because you feel what you feel. And the other thing is now the lady yesterday was talking about some of the brain theory stuff. What I'll tell you is Bessel van der Kolk, when I talked to him last year, I had a chance to meet with him. He's very clear, and if you read his book, The Body Keeps Score, he's been very clear with you about the prefrontal cortex, all of this stuff here. There is no direct contact into the midbrain. He will tell you that the pathways they've discovered is there is no direct connection between this part of the bottom of the brain that controls emotion and your experience of emotion and the prefrontal cortex. So one of the things you have to understand is that it doesn't do any good to do talk therapy if you're not doing something else. I think the reason talk therapy works is because of the experience the person has sitting down with you. In the experience, you saw that with us yesterday. The experience is what was being communicated. And that's how the communication to the bottom of her brain was happening, was through the experience. So, for example, let's look at this. So, would you be willing to let me shoot you for something? Sure. Okay. Think of an event in the past that you can still feel the upset. Okay. Now, think of that event and resist. Say, I want to be over this.
I want to be over this.
Engage. All right. Now, I know you don't, but say, I want to keep this.
I don't want to keep this.
Now resist. So I'm just checking. So what's going to happen now is her body's going to tell me where we need to tap. So just touch below your belly button and resist. Nope. Go just a couple inches above the pubic bone. Go down. There you go. Resist. All right. So the body's telling us she needs to tap here. The body's telling us precisely where to tap. You don't have to guess. Come up on your stomach here and resist. All right. Tap under your eye. Tap under your under the sternum, right under the breastbone. And resist. Touch there, now tap here. So the body's telling us where to tap. Sometimes we go there, sometimes we don't. Touch right here. And resist. Nope, no need to tap there. Touch here. And resist. Nope. Try touching out here in your rib. And resist. Oh yeah. Tap on the outside of your eye. Different point. It's different than you've seen before, but the body's telling you she needs it. Right here in your waist. Resist. No, your low back. Resist. No. Just right here in your gut. Over a little, down a little, in a little. There you go. And resist. Yeah. Tap on your index finger. Now touch a little bit. Resist. Now it's strong. Now tell me, when you thought about it a moment ago, did you have a subjective instant distress? I should have asked you. I'm sorry.
I did.
And what was the number?
It was about 5 or 6.
And what is it now?
30.
Okay. So let's do the rest of this. Tap here. Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Over here. Over here. Follow my hand around. Deep tapping. Back the other way. Hum. Count. Hum again. So tap your beginning of the eyebrow. Tap under the eyes. Tap on your little finger. Tap on the outside of your eye. Tap on your index finger. Tap under your collarbone. So Therese, do you think in pictures? You one of those strange people? Well, pull it up however you were thinking about it before. Pull it up. Tell me what you're noticing now.
It's actually harder to pull up.
Yes, that's one of the things that changes. Okay, so it's not jumping out at you, is it? Yeah, nice. And what's the set level? All right, let's do the floor to ceiling interval. Drop your eyes down here. Follow my hand up slowly. Just let your eyes roll all the way up. Stop. Okay, so think about the same thing, pull it up again, same thing, and resist. It's like a rock now. Bob, her Bob, is talking to me. It's communicating to me. We're done with that particular perturbation, that particular disturbance. It's precise, and it's communicating with a part of the brain that you don't get to with words. And so she feels different. And now, if she were my client, I would know her story, we would talk about it, we would get into it, we'd see what else. But that's where it's at. Any questions for her? You want to ask her, was she a shill? What did it feel like to have your arm pushed on? What do you want to ask? Anything? Yes, ma'am.
What difference did you feel between when you didn't have power and when you did? Was it a little difference or a lot of difference?
I'm not sure
Hey, come here. Say my name is Therese.
Therese. My name is Therese.
And resist. My name is Therese.
My name is Therese.
Resist. Say my name is George.
My name is George.
And resist. Was it a little or a lot?
That was a lot, yeah.
You can feel it in very strange ways. There was another question? Did you have a question?
Well, I think my chiropractor
Does this?
utilizes, it's like a bioenergetic,
Right.
like, yeah, but it's really interesting.
Muscle testing, kinesiology actually comes out of chiropractic medicine. And when Roger had this experience of somebody pushing on his arm, he said, whoa, that's amazing. He went off and he took the 100-hour kinesiology course offered to chiropractors. He was one of the very few non-chiropractors who ever took the course because he saw there was something of value in it. Thank you, Trish. 2 questions?
Well, actually, I was just going to share, I've used this with adolescents, kind of a part of this, to show them like how cognitive behavioral therapy works. Because like, I have them hold their arm out and say, I am weak. I can't hold my arm out, and I push, their arm will fall. But then if I teach them through the cognitive behavioral, if they say, I am strong, I can handle this, and you push on the arm, it will hold. And they're like, oh, that's good, you know,
Yeah.
so it's like that.
Because you're communicating and you're training that lower part of the brain. And you're showing them that how they feel, what they sense or what they want in the moment affects it. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to ask you, my chiropractor uses this too, muscle testing, but I was going to ask you, you said the body was responding and telling you where to tap, but I was interested to know how you figured that out, because it wasn't as obvious to me, maybe it was to everyone else.
No,
but-
it wasn't.
Okay, so, or where do you find the material to,
You
research
take
that more?
the causal diagnosis course. Okay? You can either do it through Callahan Techniques or through me, but it's a complicated process that I can't teach you in an hour. And in order to do that, you have to have completed the basic training. So the basic training used to be 2 full days, 13 hours. I've condensed it into a 1-day training that we can do in 8. I also put it online as something that can be purchased. It's 6 hours of videotape of watching me for 6 hours. Then it's a PowerPoint, it's a manual, it's questions, and then you have to write a couple of case studies. It turns out to be about 8 hours in too. And you can purchase that online. You can also, there are other algorithm courses available through Suzanne Conley and through Joanne Callahan's the Proctor Therapy, Roger Callahan's website. So I wanted to just show you so you get a sense of where it comes from, but I can't teach you all of the techniques that he developed over 20 years in the few minutes we have. Yes?
What was the significance of turning the hands up and down?
We were switching the polarity of energy in the body. So it's just a quick, fun way to show people how to do it. One more question, and we're going to move on. Yeah.
Working with like energy and stuff, does it matter what direction she was facing?
Does not matter. Does not matter. Some people will tell you in energy psychology and energy work, all of that matters. I don't understand it. I mean, I know one system, and in our system, Bob is talking to us through the muscle, through the arm. So if you go to my website and you want to get the course, you have to go to the place that says members area, and they'll charge you money for that, but you can get in there. The website's going to change completely in the next month, I hope. I'm spending a lot of money to make it better and easier for people, so it will look different soon. All right, let's get through some other stuff here. Now, one of the things that we talked about, I'm going the wrong way, aren't I?
Yes.
I think I have a psychological aversion. I think my energy is flowing the wrong way.
It's funny, it's not long ago.
I'm still going the wrong way. Oh my God! What is wrong with you? No? I'm going the right way. I went back further than I thought I did, is what it was. All right. I had mentioned a little bit about the difference between Callahan techniques, thought field therapy, and some of the other things you'll see around. Play with them. If they work, that's fine. If they don't work, don't waste your time. Come back to Daddy. You know, we'll teach you stuff that does work. Remember, thought field therapy does not do. We don't change your values or your beliefs. We don't change your knowledge or your aesthetics. You know, because all of those things happen not just in the bottom half of the brain. Your values and your beliefs and your knowledge, all of that stuff happens up here. Okay? Now, there's some about aesthetics that happens in the lower part of the brain. But again, that's the development kind of thing that happens in the upper part of the brain as you develop. So we're not going to change your values. You know, if it was possible to tap somebody, think about it. If you're a Christian, I'm going to tap on you and now you're a Muslim. Think about it. You're an atheist and I'm going to tap on you and now you decide to be Jewish. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. Because that requires the whole brain. And TFT doesn't do that. Roger used to call it informational psychology. He liked it better than energy psychology because we're dealing with information. You have to understand that when Roger was developing this stuff, a lot of the stuff we knew about brain stuff, this is 30 years ago, right? Think about what we knew about, do neurons grow? No. Can you undo the brain? No. Can you change learning? You can add learning, but you can't undo learning. One of the things that you'll find that if you read Bruce Eckert's work is that some of the research that has been very good science, human and rat studies, now says that we can undo learning. We used to believe that when you would learn something and it would get stored in the bottom half of the brain here, in the amygdala, right? And then it would begin to affect how information coming in was understood because it was filtered through this memory, right? Well, one of the problems is that if you don't change that memory schema, then you can't change how you experience the world. So the rat studies are showing, and the human studies are showing, that something called memory reconsolidation can happen. So what happens is that you have all these networks that are fired together for so long, they're wired together, right? And so you have a memory, right? And it looks like all of this. And then what happens is you activate the memory by talking about it, by thinking about it, by experiencing it, and suddenly the neurons are free. This is what happens, right? And for about 5 hours, according to these studies, it becomes sort of free-floating. Now, if you change the experience, when the memory reconsolidates, instead of going back to what it was before, it's suddenly going to create a new memory completely. So instead of layering learning on top of it, you go back and you undo the original learning. And when you do that, you can add new learning, new experience. Now, that's in a nutshell what he takes a long time to explain and what the book goes into. But that's the idea, is that by doing that, you change how people experience their lives. You change how they experience their interactions. Because suddenly it's not that you're that powerless child who's being harmed or threatened, or that teenager who's going to be found out. Suddenly, you are the person you are in this moment. And that becomes the foundational level through which perception is experienced and through which decisions are made. The name of the book is Unlocking the Emotional Brain, and it uses memory reconsolidation theory as the basis for the development of what he calls coherence therapy. And but the problem is that I took some training with them. They're not interested at this point in understanding thought field therapy. They do say EMDR is one of those transformative processes. Emotionally focused therapy is one of those transformative processes. So it's not just coherence therapy. And he would be the first to tell you there's a lot of ways to change that experience at that level. He wouldn't necessarily talk about it this way, but it's important. I want to do it because you guys do trauma work. I want you to understand a lot of what we were talking yesterday about in terms of the transference, the countertransference, or the bonding that happens, and what's the word? 4 styles of attachment. Yes. Those attachment styles really all happen in the bottom of the brain. You don't even have a top of the brain that works. And so if you can undo some of that, you begin to do it. Now, I'll tell you, I'm not much into diagnosis. If somebody comes to me and they say that they have borderline personality disorder, been diagnosed with that, I'll say, oh, fine. Because my assumption is that they don't have borderline personality disorder. What they have is post-traumatic stress disorder, which makes them look very much like a borderline personality disorder. Now, I'm not saying borderline personality doesn't exist, but it's misdiagnosed so much because nobody asks the question, what happened to you as a child? It was okay. I remember working in a hospital and taking histories, and you'd say to somebody, so were you abused as a child? Oh, no. Okay. Well, tell me more precisely, how was punishment administered in your house? With a switch? Oh, okay. And did you get the switch? Yeah. Get it a lot? Yeah. Did they just kind of give you one swat and that was it? Oh no, man, they'd get drunk and just wail on us. You know, yeah, welts and cuts. Okay. Were you abused as a child? No. Right? We've all had that kind of conversation with somebody because they don't recognize it. But the problem is that you've got to get to more precision in your questions. That's how we get to something more precise, and that becomes more useful. Tapping is a way to allow you to get to those issues. To allow you to get to a place. You know, I don't want to talk about that. You know, that's too hard. I don't go there. I don't want to talk about it. Okay. So scale of 0 to 10. How bad are you? How certain are you you're not going there? I'm at 10. I'm not going anywhere. Right. Okay. So let's just tap for that. we know what's underneath that is fear. You're afraid that if you go there, you won't come back. So let's capture that fear. You don't even have to call it that. Next thing you know, you're talking. And the next thing you know, you're beginning to understand how to help somebody in a way that's different, because they're giving you information that they have not given anybody else. I got this one woman, it took me 4 years for her to really give me that little nub I needed to be able to say, oh, honey, this is what's going on, isn't it? And to be able to start talking about how to move out of that. Now, I had a client once, came in, were you abused as a child? No. Were you ever sexually abused? No. So you never had sex before you got married? No, none of that. I was a virgin when I got married. 4 months later, she tells me that she was raped from age 3 to 16 by her stepfather. And I said, so you told me that you were a virgin when you got married. This is not, she said, well, that doesn't count. In her mind, it didn't count. And I was, okay, that works for you, we'll go there. People have a purpose to what they do. Her denial served the purpose of keeping her alive. People may not be rational, people may not be logical, but everything you do, everything you say has a purpose. And until we understand the purpose, we don't understand the implicit memory schema that is driving your experience. When we understand that, then we can begin to say it's possible to change. Because until you understand how that serves you and how important it is, you're not going to give it up. So I showed you a little bit of what the more precise stuff looks like. So out of that muscle testing stuff, Roger developed 14 patterns that we call standard algorithms, or the algorithms. Algorithms means a standard pattern that we use for a lot of different things. And it's effective. It will be very effective in the trauma work you do. If you want to be more effective, you learn how to let the body talk to you, how to let the bottom of the brain communicate with you directly. And you do that through muscle testing. So, how you doing? You got room for any more in there? You sure? Okay. Just take a second and notice what you're feeling in your body. Notice where your mind goes. Notice what questions you have. And notice how you're feeling. What?
Excited.
Excited. What else?
Empowered.
Sense of empowerment. What else?
Curious.
Ah, curious. That's good stuff. Roger always said, when he asked who makes you best therapists, who makes the best TFT people, what are the people you want around you? And he said, I want the curious. He said, I used to just say I wanted open-minded people, but the problem with open-minded people is you used to open it up and dump anything in it. But I want people who are curious. And Roger was a very curious man. What else are you noticing? Excitement, empowerment, curiosity. What else? Anybody tired? Anybody feeling a bit on overload? Yeah. It's a lot of stuff. You guys have been getting a lot of stuff. Good stuff. It's going to help you. It's going to help you do better with your clients. So I want to show you just a couple more things. And then, just to satisfy the curiosity of some of you. And we will break a little bit before noon because I understand that the church crowd is going to take over if we don't get you out there first, so we will. But now, so I want to teach you another little exercise. So if TFT is not working, right, I say you got to try something else. Well, what's another thing to try? It's called collarbone breathing. Collarbone breathing is a way to sort of reset the neurological system. So Roger first noticed it. He said he was watching TV and somebody was interviewing a reformed thief, a robber, you know. And so they were asking. So he asked the mother, "So how do you decide who you're going to attack?" He says, "Well, you pick somebody that they look like there's something wrong. That something's off, because they're going to be easy targets." He said, "Well, what do you mean?" He says, "Well, when they're walking down the street, they're not moving their arms, right? You've all seen the Thorazine shuffle, right? Where you know something's off, you're on Thorazine, right? The idea is that when you walk, you usually move your arms. There's a rhythm to it. There's a comfortable movement." He says if you're watching people and suddenly and you're noticing in a group there's somebody who's only moving one arm, there's something off. They're not as aware as somebody who's fully there. So Roger started playing with that idea and he started looking at what's going on here. And so he kind of went with a lot of other stuff that he knew, and he came up with this idea of neurological disorganization. It also comes out of Upledger's work on craniosacral work. So what it is it's a way to reset the body and the body systems, simply using your breath and tapping. And so if something's not working, some of the indications of need for collarbone breathing is TFT is not working. So you try this other thing. There are other indications, but just if it's not working, you're going to try collarbone breathing. So we're going to do this together so you can see how simple it is. The first time you see it, it's going to seem complicated. After you do it 3 times, you'll get it. After you've done it a half a dozen times, you'll know it. But it's written down for you in your materials. So what you're going to do is you're going to touch 8 different places with 5 different breathing positions. So you've got 40 treatments, and that means in your tapping for all of them. Sounds complicated? It's simple. You're going to touch once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, switch hands, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. Now you can do it in any order, right? So I usually do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But you can do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Doesn't matter. You gotta get all 8. Now what you're doing is you're touching with both hands on both sides of the body. So you're crossing over energetically and neurologically. And as you're doing that, you're going to do breathing. And in the breathing, it's a breath, it's a hold, it's part of a breath, it's a hold, it's another part of the breath. You'll see, there's 5 parts of the breathing, right? And while you're doing that all, you're going to tap. So let's just all try it together. Whether you need it or not, doesn't matter. So what I would say is start with your left hand touching your left collarbone point, under your collarbone. Now you're going to begin tapping the gamut spot. Now as you tap the gamut spot, you're going to take a full breath and hold. Hold. Now halfway out. Hold. All the way out. Hold. Halfway in. Hold. Now breathe normally. So that's the 5 breathing positions. So what you're going to do now is take that hand that you've been touching with your fingertips, turn your fingers, touch with the knuckles. Now you're touching with the back of your hand. Different energy, remember? When you flipped your hand over, different energy. Take a full breath. Hold. Halfway out. Hold. All the way out. Hold. Halfway in. Hold. Breathe normally. Now, you're going to take your hand that you're touching with your knuckles. Take those knuckles across your chest to the other side. Take a full breath. Halfway out. Hold. All the way out. Hold. Use 5 taps in each position. Now breathe in halfway. Breathe normally. Okay, so we're halfway done, right? We did 1, 2, 3. Oh no, we have one more to go. So now flatten your fingers. That's why I have to do it in a specific order. Full breath. Halfway out. All the way out. Halfway in. Breathe normally. Now we're halfway done. So take the hand you're tapping with and put it in the air. Just get it out of the way. Take the other hand and put it down. Take it out of the way. Take the hand in the air and touch your collar. You should have switched. Right? Okay. Now take the hand down here and start tapping. And take full breath. Hold. Halfway out. All the way out. Halfway in. Breathe normally. Knuckles. Turn your fingers, touch with your knuckles. Keep tapping, full breath. Halfway out. All the way out. Halfway in. Breathe normally. Fingertips. Oh, wait. Knuckles. Go to the other side. This is the problem. I keep thinking about it, jumping around here. Keep tapping, full breath. Halfway out. All the way out. Halfway in. Breathe normally. Fingertips. Almost done. Full breath. Halfway out. All the way out. Halfway in. Breathe normally. That is collarbone breathing. Anybody notice anything with it? H, sleepy, calms you down. Well, it's because you guys are tired. You've been working. This is the thing about I hate about being on the third day. You know? It's a lot easier. But then, so if tapping wasn't working, right? You do this, and then you go back and you try the tapping again, because it's the only way you're going to know is by doing it and trying it. Again, this is just the beginning of what you can do with thought field therapy. I'm very experienced in it. There's lots of options available. I'm going to pass around. This is a sheet, and it also has the place you go for the app and the other stuff here. And it has the difference between the different levels of training on it, so you can begin to look at that. So if I can get somebody to help me with this, make sure that it gets passed around. So I want you to know that this is the beginning. So I'm going to show you a little more of how I work with this in my practice. Okay? So I'm going to ask another volunteer, somebody who will work with me for 5 or 10 minutes to see what we can do. Yes, ma'am. Come on down. Let's sit, shall we? Can everybody see us okay? I'm going to ask you to turn your chairs a little bit that way so that we're not pretending we're not there. And you do know you're doing videos, right? Okay. Don't want to sneak up on anybody. All right. What's your name?
Corey.
All right. How can I help?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, if you don't, I don't either.
What kind of content do you want?
You raise your
I volunteer.
What were you volunteering?
I thought about a trauma earlier that I could work on.
You want to do that?
Sure.
Now, one of the things you're going to see in the work that I do is that I'm very clear with this is your work. I'm willing to help you. Now, if you want me, if I'm directed to ask questions and make things happen. I was doing an interview with a new client the other day. She was telling me she was abused as a child. And I said, do you want to tell me about it? She said, yes. And I said, will you tell me about it? And she said, I can't talk about it. I said, do you want me to ask you questions? So she said, okay. So I asked her very specific questions she could give yes and no answers on. And by the time we were done, she had told me the story of molest in a way that she'd never told anybody in her whole life. Things that had happened that she'd never told anybody. Because I was willing to let myself be directed by her and not get into, you need to do it the way I want you to do it, which is, you've got to tell me your story for when I help you. So that's part of what happens when you get comfortable with doing this work, because you let people take you where you need to go. Where do you need to go? Corey?
Right.
Where do you need to go, Corey? It's going to make a difference.
I had an experience where in an emergency room where my husband had gotten metal in his eye, and the doctor was trying to remove the metal in the ER with a needle. And I was holding the flashlight, and then I suddenly became dizzy and sat down. And then after that point, I had a fear of needles.
So you stopped?
No.
Oh, it went away.
I haven't worked on it mostly, yes.
Okay.
I still, when I go and give blood, I still have to calm myself during that time. There was a time when I avoided needles and looking at needles or getting blood drawn.
You know, it's interesting, Corey, that as you talk about this, are you aware of what you're feeling? Because your color's changing.
I can feel heat in my face.
Yeah, and so something's going on. Are you sure you're done with it?
Yes, I think there's still some left.
Okay.
Not as much as there used to be.
So let's clean up what's left. Think about that event.
Okay.
Feel it. 0 to 10, how bad is it?
10 being worst. Maybe a 3 or 4.
So that's enough to work with. Have you tapped on it here today?
No.
Then we'll start with the most basic thing. Tap the side of your hand. Under the nose. Beginning the eyebrow. Under the eye. Under the arm. Under the collarbone. Under the chin. Under the collarbone. The little finger. Under the collarbone. Back of your hand. Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Good. Palm of your hand. Down. Palm. Count. Palm again. Side. Under nose. Using the right eye. Under eye. Under arm. Under elbow. Under exhale. Under collarbone. Little thing. Under collarbone. Feel the shift? You can see your color shifting again. Coming back to, oh, there you are. Now think about the event and how you experience it now.
I would say that I don't really have much of an emotional, physiological response at this point.
Right. Now, this is a good example because what she just did is what a lot of people do, is they work on something, right? And they get it to a point where it's manageable, and then they're like, okay, that's good enough, and you stop, and you don't know how to go on from there. TFT cleans up the unfinished part of that in terms of allowing a different experience. So that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see, what else have we got? Well, let me show you the most advanced approach to doing TFT. Okay? So does somebody have, is anybody triggered and needs some help calming that down? So we talked about a lot of stuff. Or anybody have anything else they want to work on before we end here? Oh, what do you got?
I don't know if you want to take something that's fresh. My sister-in-law died Tuesday, and I just came back from the funeral on Saturday. So I'm a walking machine right now.
So, okay, just stay right there. No, I'm going to work with you, but I want to show you another level of TFT. So, right, as soon as you mentioned your dad,
Oh, shit.
well, and you changed it. So, what's the worst part of it for you right now?
Her husband died a year and a half ago, and they had 3 kids.
How old are the kids?
10, 11.
All right, we got it. You're just thinking about those babies, right? All right, so say the words, I want to be over this pain. Well, wait. You're right. I mean, I don't know if you want to be over the pain or not. Do you want to calm this down? Say, I want to calm this down.
I want to calm this down so I can work this week.
Say this pain. Physical pain.
I want to calm this thing down so I can work this week.
Now, and it's very painful when you think about these babies. So say this pain.
This thing.
All right. Tap the beginning of the eyebrow. Tap the back of the hand 30 times. Keep tapping. Tap the chin. Tap under the nose. Tap the outside of the eye. Tap under the arm. Tap under the collar. Say this pain.
This pain.
Okay, you're going to do the 9 gamma series. Tap on that. Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Look down left. Look down right. Roll your eyes around. Back the other way. Palm. Count.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And then hum again.
1, 2.
And tap here. Tap the back of your hand. Now notice the pattern that I'm having her tap is a different pattern, isn't it? Because it's the precise pattern that she needs right now that Bob is telling me is going to work. Her Bob is going to work for her now. Okay. And then under the eye, little finger, chin, under the nose, outside of the eye, index finger, collarbone. Tell me your name.
Michelle.
Michelle. Michelle, let's go back to thinking about the babies. Those 3 kids, right? Well, they're not babies, but okay. So when you think about your niece and nephew, is that right? What do you notice now?
I feel a little more hope.
A little more hope. Yeah. Okay, so on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the worst hopelessness you can imagine, that very painful place, and 0 being none of that, where were we when we started and where are we now?
In that moment, I was probably like a 7 when we started, and probably more like a 4.
Okay. Would it be okay if it came down a little bit? Would it feel disrespectful if you felt a little less?
I think 4 is good. I think 4 is good.
Okay. See, the thing is, because it's a grief process going on, we know it's going to feel bad. And in some cases, people feel like they need to allow that in order for their own process. And so, notice I could have just said, okay, well, let's bring it down some more. But only with her permission, because this may be where she needs to be. And you don't want to interrupt grief by messing with her stuff. But the other thing that interrupts grief is when you get to a 10, because then nothing happens. No change can happen, no experience can happen, because it's frozen. And that's the biggest problem with grief. People come to me and they're grieving and they're saying, I'm having trouble, and I'll say to them, well, what are you doing to grieve? Well, I'm crying a lot. Yeah? guy comes to me and he says, my wife died 3 years ago and I can't get beyond it. I can't do it. I said, well, what do you do? He says, oh, every day I get up and I, get around and I'll end up going to the grave sometimes during the day. I just go there every day. And what do you do? And he says, well, I start to talk to her and then I start to cry. And then I cry more and it gets to a point where I'm just so overwhelmed by the tears and the pain I call back home. Well, he wasn't grieving because he stopped himself because the pain was too much. When we got into TAP so he could stand the pain of the loss, he could begin to think about, well, what would she want for me? What was important in our marriage? How do I honor her? Right? Those are the things that move us through grief. But you can't do that and that's the top half of the brain directing us and moving us forward. If the bottom half of the brain is so reactive and overwhelms us. So I hope that helps. When you start to feel it's too much, it's okay to tap. And when the children need some help with that, when they're ready, you tap with them. You want to tell your story?
I can real quick. Collarbone breathing, learning collarbone breathing was the thing that sold me on this technique. I had sat through a workshop like this thinking, but then I experienced such profound stuff with the collarbone breathing, I thought, I've got to learn it. So, shortly thereafter, our daughter-in-law was dying down in Australia, getting ready to leave a little 4 to 6-year-old grandson, fairly similar to what you're experiencing, I think. So we were down there looking after the children while mother was dying. So I did collarbone breathing with them every single night. We would start with reading a story, and then we would do the collarbone breathing, and they would be able to go to sleep. And a couple of times, when I was tired, we'd get through the story, they'd have their eyes closed, and I'd think, oh, they've already gone to sleep. I'd start to walk out of the room, and one of them pop up and say, Granny, you got tap. So they really incorporated it in and were able to use it in a beautiful way to be able to get to sleep through a process for them that they couldn't begin to cognitively understand. Talk about top brain. Heck no. I mean, everything they were going through was in that limbic system, in the middle brain. And yet they were able to sleep because of the technique.
Well, and I like what you just shared because I think collarbone breathing would be, I've used the tapping starting with a 12-year-old, but like collarbone breathing would be simple enough for like a play therapist with a 4 or a 6-year-old. You wouldn't want to put a 4 or 6-year-old through the entire protocol. But that would be.
Well, you'd be surprised because the kids get into it. It's kind of like, and the beauty of doing it with kids is the thing that's very helpful is they don't require explanations. You tap with them and they feel better, and then go play yes. You do it with adults, and it's like you tap with them and they feel better, and then you gotta explain it to them. Well, what happened? Okay, well, let's talk. Yes, Jen.
I noticed when you were doing that with Michelle, you kept doing something else with your arm. What was that about?
I was doing muscle testing at a distance. This is the most advanced
So you're
form.
pretty intuitive then?
No. No. God, you can teach us to a monkey.
To a non-intuitive?
Oh yeah, that's the beauty of TFT. Everything that we do, Roger had a test for, muscle test for. Everything that you could tell whether it was working or not working by the muscle testing.
So, explain.
So I'm doing muscle testing. It's what's called surrogate work. So we connect energetically, and I'm using my body to test for her. So, and it's all teachable. There's nothing here that I haven't talked to. I have to teach the kids. I have taught the kids. So there's nothing here that you can't learn. It requires no special skills. I'm not an intuitive in that sense. I mean, I know things I probably shouldn't know. That's one of the therapists about people when I look at them. But it's all learnable stuff, and that's part of what I love about it. And you can learn this. It's not that hard. And if you choose to learn it, you can learn it. You can know it. Yes, ma'am. Just physiologically, emotional states have an effect on our body. So when we get anxious, it changes our body. When we get scared, it changes our body. And one of the things is it changes blood flow. Blood flow changes the color, right? You all seen people who've gone white? Well, that's because they're in an activated system that doesn't allow blood flow to the skin, right? So that's what I was looking at. I'm going to need to stop you very quickly. I'm going to be around for an hour or two here. I don't have to catch my plane for a bit. So if you have more questions or if there's anything I can help you with, please feel free to ask me. Yes?
Those handouts didn't come around.
Did we run out of handouts? Did we run out of handouts? They'll get you some more. A second, I'm going to let you go in just a moment.
If you do not get one of his handouts, please email training@cssnt.org, just the same email, and I'll let me know and I will send it to you. Anything over the weekend that you didn't get, you want more of, email training.
So, why do you do this work? Somebody say it again. And why is that important?
Because they are valuable.
And why is it important? All right, I'll tell you why I do it. I do it because it makes me feel better. It's important to make other people feel better, but the bottom truth is, it feels so good when you help somebody. It feels so good. I do it because it feels good. And you should too. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. I always like to end every training with one thing, which is thank you, because what you're doing here by coming here and learning, by pushing yourself to find more ways to help, to find better ways to be a therapist, it's important because every client that you work with, you change their life. You change not only their life, you change their families' lives. You change not only their families, their extended families, their neighborhoods, their communities. And you change the community that I'm part of for the good. And for doing that, if you don't hear it anywhere else, I want to say thank you.